Hi, I'm Stephanie Hollaback. I teach at Arroyo Elementary and I teach first grade. So a little nugget of advice that I've received from a colleague is to make sure that you stay in the moment with your students while you're teaching and don't get so caught up in your head about trying to get through your lesson and get your point across, but kind of let them guide you. Be more mindful of what's going on at that time. It sounds kind of cliche, but I have wanted to be a teacher pretty much my whole life. I realized starting in first grade that that's basically what I wanted to do. I think I owe it to my first grade teacher, Miss Dorsey. She was warm and caring, she made school fun, and I still remember her to this day.
My name is Diane Gilbert. I teach at Benson Elementary School, and this year I'm teaching kindergarten. My mom and dad were both in education, and so it's just kind of a natural progress that I went through. I had lots of great mentors and helpers throughout the years, so I really appreciate all the people that have lent me support in the past, and I try to do that with my induction candidates for the future to go on. I think the most magical moment in teaching is whenever a child's light bulb goes on. When we work really hard and they finally get a concept, that's a really special time in that child's life, and so that's a special time for me too. We have a few phrases I use in my classroom, but one of them is one to get their names on their papers. So I say, the first thing I do is always the same, and my kids respond with, I pick up my pencil and write my name.
I remember when I first knew I wanted to become a teacher. I was a senior in high school and I was doing community service in a elementary school, and going there every day was just such a great feeling, and I loved the environment and I loved being around all the kids, and I just knew that was something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. A teacher that had an impact was more of a negative impact but turned into a positive impact, because it was a teacher who was not very nice and didn't enjoy the profession, and she was very hurtful to a lot of kids, and that was when I knew that I didn't want anyone to be treated like that. And if I was a teacher one day, I would make sure that no students were ever treated that way, and they were always given love and felt the confidence they needed to succeed. So that actually helped me out.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dang. I'm the SAI teacher at Stock Elementary. My best teaching moment is just seeing a lot of the students with services succeed in general ed setting. An advice that I think that really stuck with me is to celebrate the small moments. Being an SAI teacher, sometimes just seeing that these students are making progress, but even though they're not at grade level, they're still making so much progress. So those are the small successes that I feel should be taken with me. I'm always saying, let's try again. You got it, you're almost there, let's try again. So that's probably something I always say.
I was in 11th grade doing volunteer work at my local elementary school, and I actually got to work with first graders, and I knew that was where my heart was. I think coming into education and you go into your classroom, you get so busy and you want to stay in your classroom and do everything there all the time, but coming into the educational field, you need to seek your colleagues and be out there so that they can help you. The best teaching moment I've had is knowing that I've taught the student to overcome their fear of reading, seeing that glow in their eyes and knowing that they've broken through the code and that they're enjoying books and that they're going to be able to enjoy it for the rest of their lives in any aspect of their education or in their own day-to-day lives. That's always been an amazing thing to see, especially in this young little first graders.
The moment I decided I wanted to become a teacher was when I was 5 years old. I used to play school with my grandpa, and he would be the student and I would be the teacher. And just from that moment on, I knew I had a love of teaching and learning, and he taught me a lot, and I just knew I wanted to do that when I grew up. I had many teachers that made an impact on my life. It was my kindergarten teacher, just taught me the love of school. I had a second grade teacher that taught me the love of reading, and I had a fourth grade teacher that taught me the love of math. And those teachers all really, really cared about me and showed me a love of learning that I'm hoping that I'm showing to my students as well. I want them to know that they're valued and that they're cared about and that we're here to learn together and work together. And those teachers really showed me that as I was growing up.
The first moment I knew I wanted to teach was actually in 6th grade because of my 6th grade teacher. She was an inspiration and I wanted to be just like her. Mrs. Sinclair, my 6th grade teacher, would be the one that has inspired me to be a teacher. She made learning fun. She had 30 plants in her classroom and couches, and every day was full of different activities, and that was something that I wanted to do as a teacher, to make learning enjoyable. A piece of advice that I have gotten from a mentor is to be trusting and genuine with my students. If they trust me, then I know that they will be risk takers and they will want to try their best.
You know, it was probably in my DNA. Sounds funny, but my grandmother wanted to be a teacher. And unfortunately, she could not finish her education because she grew up in the time of the Depression, so she had to quit school and never had that dream fulfilled. Then I came along, and I was one that always played school with my stuffed animals. Lined them all up. I had my chalkboard, taught them the alphabet, taught them how to write. I have a theme in this classroom, and it's all around the classroom: believe. I believe in all of them. They may not be able to do something yet, but eventually they will be able to accomplish it. I believe in them, and I hope that they will believe in themselves as well.
I think the moment I decided I wanted to be a teacher was when I was a little girl, and I would line up all of my stuffed animals in my bedroom, and I would pretend like I was their teacher. And my favorite part was writing on, it was a chalkboard back then, but I knew then that's what I wanted to do. My best teaching moment was helping a young girl who had not been able to read. I sat down and had her read a book, and when she finished it, she looked up at me in such disbelief, and that was a very memorable moment for me. I asked some students what words they would use to describe me, and I heard several of them use the word helpful, encouraging, and kind-hearted, and that made me feel great.
My senior year of high school, I coached swimming, and during that summer I was just having so much fun. I thought, you know what, I should look into doing this. Teacher was actually a coach. It was a swim coach. When I was younger, I was very quiet, and I tended to stay on the sidelines and just watch. And I had a coach who just really encouraged me to go out, be a part, get involved. And one of the things I really learned from him was how to create community with any group that I'm given. So I still try to do that to this day. I believe in you. Say that I'm kind, I'm funny, and I'm magical.
I was doing some after-school work in college education class, and we were tutoring some kids, and from then on I loved working with the students, and I loved working with the kids, and I loved the positive motivation I gave them, and so I decided to go into the teaching profession. One piece of advice that I always take with me every day is when one of my mentors said to me, tomorrow is a new day. So I know after the day, and if I've had a hard day, or maybe I wasn't able to get all that I needed to do in that day, I know that tomorrow would be a new day and I'd be able to get back in there and be able to teach again. My best teaching moment ever, I had My first year of teaching, I had a girl who was struggling with doing division, and she was a really good math student, but she just had a hard time and couldn't understand how to do division. And then I sat with her, and then she finally got it, and I just remember she gave me the biggest hug because she was able to get over her challenge.
I was a city employee volunteering in my son's kindergarten classroom and decided I wanted to go back to school and enter the classroom as an elementary school teacher. My high school English lit teacher, Mr. Eubanks, influenced me to become a teacher due to my love of reading. He encouraged me after high school and through all my college years to continue learning and reading. My fabulous Vitsa mentor always told me to be flexible and to always go back and reflect on what went well and what went wrong. Anytime, a best teaching moment is anytime the kids get it. When they get that aha and something clicks, that's always a good moment in the classroom. I always tell my students, read, 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 and read some more. And they always tell me I'm safe, I'm responsible, and I'm kind, which happen to be our Tiger rules here at Nelson.
So there wasn't ever an exact moment that I decided that teaching was the career for me. It was more like everything I did just kept bringing me back to being a teacher and wanting to be back in the classroom. All the advice, I think, one, I got a gift from one of my teammates, and it says, keep calm and pretend it's on the lesson plan. And I have to say that saved me a few times. My classroom can get really exciting, different, fun. I like to be innovative and creative and try new things, and some of that's like Skyping with classrooms across the country, taking virtual field trips with zoos or experts. One thing that I always say to my students is don't be afraid to have fun in the classroom. We can just embrace the moment, enjoy the learning, have fun together, and when we're having fun and we're learning, it's so much more powerful and exciting, and we want to be here together.
I was an aide for students with emotional disturbance, so they're very difficult kids. And I spent a year in the room, and I did not think I wanted to be a teacher, but after a year in the room and I saw the growth of these middle school kids, at the end of the year I realized how amazingly rewarding it was, and I decided to go back to school and teach. Probably the best advice I ever got was the motto, patience is a virtue, because when you're working with any kids, but particularly because I have special need learners, patience is very much a critical quality. I always say a lot of I'm proud of you and good job, I know you're trying your best, and I ain't gonna lie, I tell them that I love them a lot too.
Hi, I'm Melanie Valencia, and I teach second grade at Red Hill Elementary. I do remember the first moment I decided I wanted to teach. I was working in different corporate jobs, and I hated them. My mom was a teacher, and I grew up around teachers, and I finally just decided I'm done. I'm not working corporate anymore. The next month, I signed up for my credential program and hit the ground running, and I've never looked back since. A teacher that has made the most impact in my teaching career would be my mom. She taught for over 30 years and was the most amazing teacher I've ever seen and witnessed in my life. Her love and dedication for her students was astounding, and I look to her for guidance still today.
I had a piano teacher who had a long-lasting impact on my life. We had such a special bond. It inspired me so much that I actually became a concert pianist. So for me, developing a relationship with each one of my students is very important. Once that trusting relationship has been established, I believe that they will be inspired to do their very best. A colleague once told me that every interaction you have with a child is never a neutral act. Either something is added or taken away from the child. So I hope that the interaction that I have with my students are the kind that add to their lives. And my students just remind me every day that teaching is not just providing a content, but it's active compassion.
I remember when I first decided to become a teacher, I was actually in school studying to be a speech pathologist. And as I was shadowing a speech pathologist in an elementary school, I found myself captivated by what the teacher was doing in the classroom and watching the students and having flashbacks of when I was in elementary school. And I think that was the moment that I decided to change my career choice and go into teaching. So I started a credential program right after. We have lots of little sayings in the classroom. One of them goes with our owl theme. We always cheer each other on with hoot hoot hooray. The other one I always say is every day in every way we get a little better, yay. And we always just say if at first we don't succeed, try again.
The teacher that made the greatest impact in my life was my mom. She was the world's best kindergarten teacher, and the quality that I think I embraced is she cared about her kids and she wanted to know the whole child, about their family and just what they were good at and what they struggled with so she could help them. So those are the qualities that I've tried to embrace. I always tell my kids that I care about them. So, you know, I love them, I want them to do their best, and I think that they can do it.
My name is Dorothy Lassi. I'm a specialized academic constructor. When I decided to teach, I was about 12 years old. I used to play school with my sisters and my neighborhood kids, and I liked being the teacher. I also wanted to go into special education because my sister's hearing impaired, and her start in life had a big impact on me. Good advice that I've received has been to remember to enjoy what you do. Enjoy also your weekends, your free time. Also to laugh with your students. Have a good time with your students, because if you no longer do that, it's not going to be your passion. And for me, teaching is my passion.
I'm Karen Minnie. I teach Spanish 1A, Spanish 1B, and Payal at Columbus Tustin Middle School. I try to greet my students at the door every morning. If it's Payal, it's good morning. If it's any of my Spanish classes, it's usually buenos dias or buenas tardes. My son was in preschool, and I remember one day picking him up from preschool. I had gotten off work a little bit early that day, and I think I spent 2 hours just interacting with the students, and that was the day I realized I wasn't doing what I was passionate about, and what I wanted to do was teach. 27 years, I've had a lot of great teaching moments. 4 years ago, my PAL students and I were invited to present at the Orange County PAL Conference. Basically, I was hands off. My students were so well prepared and so ready to present this workshop that I was just able to sit back and watch them shine.
I was in college, and it was after taking a few Spanish literature classes, and I thought it would be a really fun thing to teach other students, especially native speakers of Spanish. One of the first teachers was my kindergarten teacher. Her name was Miss Hernandez, and she was the first, and for a long time, the only teacher that I knew that spoke Spanish. She was Latina, and so she was incredibly influential in my life in making that decision a little bit easier. Also, she was so nice. She everything was supportive. Everything was about working together and figuring things out together, and she really made a big impact on my life.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Payal, and I teach 7th grade science and STEM at Hayes Middle School. Confucius said, if you love your job, you never have to work a day in your life. And that was something that I always took with me when trying to decide what to do for my career. I had always thought about teaching ever since I was a little kid. I think most teachers have the same sort of story, you know, playing classroom with a bunch of your stuffed animals. But I always also liked science, and so I had thought about being a marine biologist for a long time. But then I realized that I wanted to work with kids and I wanted to make a difference. So I remember sitting there one day going, what am I even thinking about? Like, I know that this is what I want to do. I always say that it's okay to mess up, that we learn most when we mess up and we make mistakes, as long as we look at it as an opportunity for growth.
I was actually working at UCI Medical Center in the neuropsych unit, and I was an occupational therapist in charge of teaching people with schizophrenia about brain chemistry. And I realized after getting a lot of really good feedback about how the patients actually understood brain chemistry that my mission in life was really to teach science. My very first teaching credentialed teacher made a big point to explain to us that the first thing you want to do when you step foot on campus is to become friends with the office secretary and the janitor, and that they will always take care of you, so you always become friends with them. Just last February, when my Science Olympiad kids competed in the Orange County Regionals and did exceedingly well to the point where we are now going to the state competition on April 8th.
I knew I wanted to become a teacher when I was an aide in this autism program. I started off about 10 years ago, and I just fell in love with this program and the students, and that's when I decided to become a teacher. My best teaching moment happens every morning for me. I love greeting my students at the door as they say goodbye to their parents. My students are always excited to be at school. They're eager to learn. They have smiles on their face. And I love it when they make an eye contact to me and say, "Good morning, Miss Aya."
Hi, my name is Jan Mintz. I'm a teach seniors at Beckman High School. I teach both ERWC and AP Lit. My own mother, who most inspired me, was an English teacher for many years. She would always have great stories to tell at the dinner table, and always had such drama and also a huge amount of passion for the work that she did. She had such connections with her students, and she had such a passion for her subject matter, and I think I try to combine both as well. I think it's always been about passion. If you're going to get in front of a group of teenagers and you don't express the passion that you have, then it gets all lost.
Best teaching moment ever would definitely be starting the film and television program here at Foothill. It's something that I've wanted to do for a number of years. To get it up and off the ground and really get this running, it has really been an incredible feat of passion, but I think there's so many moving pieces and so many things that happened to make this actually a go. It was really that I think has been kind of the defining moment. A teacher that impacted me was my third grade teacher, Mrs. McMiniman. Actually had her for second, third, and sixth grade, so I got to know her pretty well. I just remember her being so patient and so inclusive, and I think those are the two things that I always took with me, and I think that was really why I appreciated having her. I learned a lot, but I think while she pushed us, she also realized that patience was an important part of being a good classroom teacher.
It was a combination of both Mrs. Ali, who was my main teacher, and Mrs. Guillen, who was the bilingual instructional assistant. Mrs. Ali helped me with my phonetics and my sounds, and Mrs. Guillen helped me with my English, to learn English. To let it go and just move on. It's our students, they do their portfolios, and when I get letters of acknowledgement from my students. See you guys tomorrow. Have a good day. Fair? challenging, and empathetic.
I'm Randy Rita, and this is Tustin High School, and I've been teaching honors and advanced placement biology for the last 20 years here. I remember the moment that I made my big transition from working in the family business for the first 10 years out of college, and was working out in Palm Springs in the summer. It was really hot, and my wife, who is also a teacher, said, "You should become a teacher, not have to be working at 115-degree weather out in the desert." And I took her advice. Probably the best advice I'd heard from another teacher is to remember to be compassionate to my students. I always treat my students like that they're my own. Whatever they need, whatever it takes to help them, we do it.